Oh man, Anakin was right. This place sucks.
Hey, Dan, aren't we supposed to be filming like Red Seal Roundup today?
Don't worry about it. Stone Cat's Phil will think about something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got to earn his money somehow. Oh wait, I don't pay him.
Welcome, Red Seal gamers. Welcome to this week's edition of the Red Seal Roundup. As you can tell, the fearless leaders are away vacationing themselves on the sunny beaches of New Jersey, so you have to deal with me and my partner in crime here. My name is Chris, also known as Big Papa Palp on the Discord server, and I'm with today.
My name is Wei, and I'm also known as Mega de la Panda III on the Discord handle.
And as always, the man that never takes a vacation to the Jersey Shore, we have Phil behind the mics. Thanks, Phil, for everything you do here for the social media here at Red Seal Gaming. We really appreciate everything that you do for us.
Oh, there we go. There he is.
There he is. The man behind the mic.
Yes.
Man behind the camera.
The man that makes everything happen.
All right, so since the fearless leaders are away, we figured we'd talk about some news that they would absolutely never touch in 1,000 years. So we're, of course, going to talk about D&D and Magic all at the same time. This is preview week, and Wizards has been giving us lots of new information.
Exactly.
And I don't know that they've shown a lot of cards on the podcast so far, so we figured we would show you some of those. Wei being our resident Magic professional, he's going to discuss some of those cards and power levels, and we'll kind of go through it.
Well, I mean, I'll do my best to talk about the power levels. It's usually takes a little bit of deck fiddling around with Commander and everything for me to gauge, power levels. So some people typically come up with some crazy combos that I would never have thought of, but it just takes some time.
Yeah, it's one thing to think of power levels in the lab under those theoretical conditions. It's a whole other thing when you put the cards in millions of people's hands.
Yep.
And you see what kind of craziness they come up with.
Exactly.
Let's first talk about some of the different styles of cards that are going to be in this set, because I don't think Dan and Sal have touched on this yet, but they have a couple different new art styles. Everything, of course, is going to be in your traditional Magic the Gathering banner with all the different colors, but they have decided to do some interesting things that I think some of the old school D&D players are really going to like with this set. So, Phil, if you want to throw one of them up there. All right, so here's the thing that really, this came out today. Today we're shooting this on Wednesday. In the set boosters, what they typically do is they put an art card which has no text on it. It's just art, and sometimes you'll get a gold signature on them. One of the funnest things that I think that they're going to do with this set is that for some of the art cards that are specifically of a creature, the backside of the art cards, which is traditionally just a stark white, they're actually going to put the stat blocks from 5th edition on it.
I think that's a fantastic idea. They're already talking about trying to bridge the D&D and Magic community together, and what better way is to fledgling DMs. They play Magic, and now they have cards that they can use at tabletop D&D sessions.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that other companies make cards like this. Like I know Gale Force 9 does the 5th edition ones like this, but the art is not as good. The card stock itself is not as good. This is going to basically upgrade your D&D experience, and like you said, for a new DM, perfect way to introduce this idea. And it's just going to give you something to do with those art cards. I have lots of those art cards that are sitting in a box on my shelf. I don't know about you.
Same thing. I have tons and tons of art cards. I've cracked way too many set boosters, and they're just, initially I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to just get one of each of them. And now I have one of each, and then I have a bunch of excess that's just sitting around. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Some people that I know have used them as proxies for certain actual cards, and I think that's fine and all. But they more or less they do nothing. Just kind of like eye candy for the most part. And if you get a signature, that's great. But they're no real monetary value to the cards themselves. It's just kind of extra fluff.
Absolutely. So I think they're actually doing something really good with those art cards when it comes to that. And I hope that we see more of that in the future. All right, one of the next types of cards that they've kind of put out. Now, we've all seen the Dritz card. That's nothing new. But I did want to talk about the idea of their showcase. So they started showcase with Kaldheim. Is that correct? Was that the first showcase, or am I incorrect?
There may have been showcases prior. But I think it's Kaldheim they really emphasized on the showcases with the comic book style design.
Oh, that's right. It was Ikoria had the first showcase, right?
Yes,
they had the comic book style.
Yes. My fault.
Kaldheim was the one that actually had, I think, the most showcases out of all of them. And for my money, that was the best showcase they've done. I think that art style and that frame around the cards is great. But these are a close.
These are a whole entirely different level. This is looks like straight out of a D&D book right now.
Yeah, on the Wizards site today, they actually kind of showed the structure of how they put it together and how they took the ink picture of Dritz full from head to toe, and how they kind of layered it with the different colors and the different art styles to make it look the way that it is. And I think they've done a masterful job with this one. I'm looking forward to collecting all of those, as well as the art cards that have stat blocks on them.
Of course. One of the other showcase cards in this set that I'm very excited for are these showcase look of the lands.
So cool.
I've only started playing D&D more recently, and most of my D&D has been mostly online. So I never had the luxury of handling most of these older D&D books. And just looking at it, it's even though I've never seen or handled these books in person, they just look awesome.
I totally agree. I'm a relatively new D&D player as well. I started with 5th edition, but I can really appreciate the idea of the old school module. There's actually a company that does 5e campaigns called Goodman Games, and they put these covers on them.
Okay.
So it's a really cool little throwback, and this is just kind of throwing back to that community. Not only does it look cool, but it's definitely giving those nostalgic players something to look forward to, something to chase. As well. And as far as I know, these are only lands. Is that correct?
So far, I believe these are the showcase styles for just the lands alone. If you look here, Hive, the Eye Tyrant, you have there that gorgeous Beholder right there. It's also another land. It's hard for me to see the text. It's hard for me to see the text here. But yeah, again, another gorgeous land that I think there are 4 tap lands right now check lands where if you comes in, if you have 2 or more creatures, the land comes in tap.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yes, if you control 2 or more other lands, they come in tap. I believe there are other lands that have similar effects, but I think I've only seen 5 so far. I'm wondering whether or not
there's going to be one in each color identity, because this is the black one. This is for black magic, and I imagine there's probably one for the red and the
yes, there should be one of each one. Now here's the other one.
This is the white version.
The white one on the orange background.
And also, Evolving Wilds is one of these cards.
Evolving Wilds is definitely one of the cards as well. So
if they're doing the 5 colors, then they put that one in. That gives us 6.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic.
Looks like it's gonna
really
be
good chase card. And then the last style of card that they are in this D&D set is the dungeons, which is a brand new thing. My biggest hurdle with this is that there's only 3 of them. And it seems like it's going to be a major portion or a major mechanic in the delve.
Did they confirm that it was going to be just 3? I know we've only ever seen 3. I'm hoping that there would be more.
I'm pretty sure it was confirmed. I don't want to jump out on a limb and say that for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that it was going to be 3 and only 3.
Oh, okay.
And you could go through them multiple times. So if you go through the Tomb of Annihilation once in your game, you can restart it immediately. But as far as I know, it's only the 3.
Though, I mean, I was kind of hoping that I would see more. 3, because there are more cards that have been spoiled so far, and that all have ventured into dungeon mechanics. So it seems like players will be, if they build around it, can go through these dungeons pretty quick. So I thought it would be cool if they had more. But I'm guessing that's not to stop, casual kitchen table games from coming up their own dungeons.
There's your own dungeons. And it leaves space for them to do another D&D set in the future, which we hope they do. Replace the core set with the D&D set every year, and you'll make me a happy camper. All right, this is preview week, so we've got a few cards that have been coming out this week that you've probably seen either through the Discord or on any of the other various websites you go to, but we wanted to talk a little bit about them.
Yes, there's been quite a lot of cards that have been previewed, some officially previewed, some of them have leaked through some other means. One of the cards is Circle of Dreams Druid. If you just it's 2/1 for 3, but its effect basically means it's a Gaia's Cradle with legs. Gaia's Cradle is most Magic players are familiar with. It's a very expensive, very powerful land, where it taps for green for any number equal to the number of creatures you have. Now, players are going to be able to get their hands on that kind of effect on another card. Now, I don't know if this is going to be one of the more expensive cards that's going to be cracked out in the set, but I'm totally excited to see that they have a Gaia's Cradle effect reprinted to some extent.
Well, it'd be nice to have Gaia's Cradle in Standard as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little worried about 3 green mana
Yeah.
being that the cost, and the fact that it's easier to remove creatures. So it's a little bit harder to remove Gaia's Cradle, but it is also kind of cool to see it as
Yes.
well in a different format. Very-
Definitely some balancing here. With 3 green means that it's only going to go into mostly a deck that's predominantly running green. I would have an issue if this was 2 in a green. Then this card would be and would show up in tons of other decks that just runs green as a secondary or tertiary color.
Do you think this shows up in Elf Commander decks?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm already looking at there's already an elf that is would cost 3 and taps to 3, and then you tap that 3 to cast her, and then you're gonna have easy black green elf ramp easy. And it's an elf, so all the better. There
Fits
it is.
Fits that tribal
Yep.
theme. Oh no, this is the hot button topic.
So the card right now, I believe it's in Chinese. Now, it is Tarisk.
Yes.
It's
Famous D&D monster, huge, world-ending monster.
yes, and I have played D&D campaigns where Tarisk was basically the end game. You beat Tarisk, you basically kind of finished the storyline there. And I don't, if I remember correctly, the D&D campaign I was in when we fought Tarisk, we did not win. We were woefully unprepared. We did our best. We did our best RP to try to win out, but we didn't. Now, when I heard that Tarisk was going to be coming out, I was excited to see how broken this card was.
Should have been the most powerful card in the set, right?
Should have been. It is very powerful. It's a 10/10 for 9. If you cast it from your hand, it gets ward 10, which effectively means that you're not gonna be able to touch it. You gotta pay whatever the CMC is plus 10 to cast anything that's gonna target it. But that's the only part that I felt was in flavor with Tarisk. The other part of it is if it gains haste, and then when it attacks, it fights another creature, and that's it. I was thinking it would have, indestructible maybe, or regenerate even, because if I remember correctly, one of Tarisk is well known for is that it recovers so quick. So for whatever it is right now, it's an okay card. It's a little disappointing for a mythic. I mean, it'd be cool if I were to pull like this artwork. It still looks really cool.
Yeah, I want this artwork for sure, but that's because I'm a collector.
Yeah.
Using the card, playing the card, I don't know if it would make a deck.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to go to
with.
any of my decks right now. But it is a dinosaur, so if anyone that's running a dinosaur tribal deck, could be an inclusion maybe.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
What do we got coming up next?
Yes. What do we have next coming up? Oh, okay. Xanathar.
This is the one that just came out today.
Yeah, this is one of the more recent cards that has been spoiled. Xanathar. Now, everyone knows who Xanathar is. There was even a book dedicated
He's got
to
his own
Xanathar.
book.
Yeah, his own book. And then if you look very closely there says a little pet goldfish right there.
Can you see the goldfish? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
see it
right
right there.
there, right
Okay,
there.
yeah, perfect.
His very famous pet of his. Now, this is when this card came out, people were already comparing it to Centriplets because the effect is pretty much almost the same. Centriplets lets you cast from your opponent's hand. Xanathar lets you cast from the top of your opponent's library. Together, they're a very powerful combo. I'm already seeing degenerate decks being built around this guy.
That kind of fits, right? Xanathar being Lord of Waterdeep.
Yeah, it's a perfect theme for this card. So this is one of the cards that I thought themed it very well. Playing off of your opponent's deck. Now, if you slide this into a Centriplets deck, it's perfect for part of the 99 if you're running a commander deck, Centriplets commander, or he could even do really well standalone as a commander himself, being that it's blue-black. So this is going to be one of the cards I'm going to keep my eye out for. If I'm going to go and actually build such a degenerate deck, I try not to. Because that's how you lose friends very quickly when you play decks like these. So within this set, we already talked about how well it's currently being themed, like with the showcase lands and with Drits, the showcase art for Drits. Now in the cards of themselves, even the effect, and I had looked at the basic lands. Like if you saw the flavor text in the basic lands,
One of my favorite things. That's the first time they've done it too, right? They've
Yes.
never done flavor text.
they've
on
never
lands?
really done flavor text on lands. But the flavor text that they have added is amazing.
It's as if it's coming out of my DM's
Yes.
mouth.
And I'm considering like if I could get my hands on foils, all of them, I'll probably maybe like frame them, do a little like frame all of them, and then showcase them. But if you look at some of the other cards that's in the set, it's again very in theme with a D&D style campaign that you're playing.
I get almost like a choose your own adventure kind of
Yeah.
vibe off of it, right?
Yeah, so like for this one, for example, you see a pair of goblins. What do? So you could either charge them, or your creatures get +2/+0, or if you befriend them and you get 2/1/1 goblins.
Well, I feel like the guy that would sit in this seat normally would always choose the first one, but I think I'll choose to befriend them because I'm a friendly guy.
Yeah, if you're want to overrun your opponent with a bunch of friendly goblins, then you might want to go with befriend them. But I think there are several other cards that have
And then I like
that kind of
the
effect.
flavor text on there. I have the shot. Should I take it?
Yes.
Wish.
Yes, Wish. Now, Wish cards. I play mostly Commander nowadays. Wish is I think there has been a topic that most Commander players am familiar with, because in Commander there is no sideboard, and with that in mind, you can't play cards like Wish in Commander because there's nowhere you pull cards from. Because in any other format outside of Commander, the Wish effect means you are pulling that card out of your sideboard. Without a sideboard, you can't use this. So I think it was a problem in Strixhaven with Lessons. Lesson cards were supposed to go into a sideboard, and without
Which doesn't exist in
which
Commander,
doesn't
correct?
exist, so you can't play Lessons to its full abilities.
Now, what about not to derail this conversation? But what about dungeons? Would they be able to be played in Commander?
Dungeons, they have confirmed that it is part of your sideboard and at the same time not part of your sideboard. It just exists, and you are allowed to play in Commander. So at least we got that. It would have been very disappointing to see all
That major mechanic
the
not-
major mechanic not be used in Commander, which
Yeah.
is right now really popular game format.
Everybody's favorite.
Everyone's talking about the gelatinous cube.
Who hasn't ever been engulfed by a gelatinous cube? If you haven't, you really should go out and try
Yes.
it. It's amazing.
I've lost many weapons to a gelatinous cube, including our very expensive armor set.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, gelatinous cube. It's 4/3 for 4, and it exiles, and then you can dissolve, which is again very on point theme. You suck in an opponent's
you
creature,
engulf them and then you destroy them.
and then you need to destroy them. I love this card. This is one when I saw this, I immediately remembered that there are a bunch of these D&D miniatures, and this is where a D&D game where it could be, instead of the card, you put the card on, you put the little miniature out as well. Yeah, the little gelatinous cube miniature.
The use of miniatures in my Magic the Gathering games might have just exponentially increased quite a bit now that this set is here, because I own a gelatinous cube, and you better believe that if I take your 1/1 goblin, I'm going to put him inside that cube to make it thematic as well
Thematic
as
as possible.
eye candy.
Of course.
A couple other things that they've talked about with the Magic the Gathering release. They actually released the commander decks. I don't know that they've showed us any stats for the commanders, but they told us what the
Yes.
did they s-
Gavin Verhey, in one of his recent videos, Good Morning Magic, he talked about four of the commander decks, and they are going to be officially previewed on July 2nd.
and they're giving us. It's going to have 4 legendary heroes.
Yes.
and then it's going to have 4 legendary villains that you can use that same deck with. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about that. I've only really read up on the 4 legendary heroes. It'd be great if they also included the counterparts, so you can play the villain side of these commander decks.
Yeah, I don't have their names written down, but there's a red-green Dragonborn Barbarian is one of the commander decks. There's a red-black Tiefling Warlock, which really has
On
me
point.
thinking. There's a white-blue-black Human Wizard, and then there's a green-white-blue Elf Paladin.
Yes.
As soon as I saw that they were going to do these 4, I immediately wanted an arch enemy Tiamat deck.
Yes.
How awesome would it be to do 4 commander decks? Everybody at the table is playing one of those 4 commanders, and then the 5th outlier is playing the arch enemy Tiamat, this gigantic, powerful commander deck that everybody has to face.
I think that's something that Magic needs to get on.
I mean, they did it with Nicol Bolas.
Nicol Bolas, yeah.
That was what, 5, 6 years ago. They did the red box
that
arch
wasn't
enemy.
too long ago. They sold a whole arch enemy theme set with Nicol Bolas, and I thought that was fantastic. Then I feel maybe someone down the line to surprise us. Maybe they'll do a D&D.
I know Watsy's watching this. This is the 9th episode of the Roundup. You're definitely watching. So give us Tiamat Arch Enemy so that we can use these commander decks as they were intended as a party.
The moment you announce it, you can just have my money. I'm going to just continue to throw money at.
Throw the Futurama meme up there. Take all my money.
Yep.
A couple other things that they've mentioned as well. I know I just said that, but they mentioned that the bundle for this set, they've actually announced a gift bundle is going to be in the D&D Forgotten Realms set as well as having the regular packs in it. It's going to have a collector's pack in it.
Yes.
And it's going to have a larger spin down die that looked really, really good. So I thought that was a nice little thing.
Yeah, you always love buying bundles, not just for the packs. I actually buy bundles for the die.
Have you ever found that bundles have better draws for you?
Yes, I have noticed that bundles tend to have slightly better draws, but I haven't cracked enough compared to sets to really get a good sample base out of it.
Yeah,
but
I haven't cracked a lot lately, but I remember like in the Origins days, the Zendikar days, for the second set of Zendikar there was, when I was opening bundles, I found that my ratios were much better for mythics and rares that way.
I remember when they had the lands with the expedition lands in the Zendikar sets. The foil expedition lands that I have right now all came from bundles. My booster box were not as lucky, but the bundles tend to pay out for. But then again, that's my anecdotal evidence. So I don't know if your mileage may vary.
All right, last thing that we're going to talk about with Magic, maybe not the happiest of news for some of us, but they've actually announced the cancellation of their PC game, correct?
Oh yes, it seems like very recently they just announced that they are going to shutter Magic Legends in October. I think that's going to be the last day you're going to be able to play the game.
Now that just came out, right? That didn't even get a full release.
They didn't even get a full release. It got as far as into the beta. And I played the beta, and the game was okay. I did encounter a lot of bugs, and the gameplay itself didn't bring anything new to the table. It felt like they tried to be a Diablo clone. So if I had the choice, unfortunately, I would continue to play Diablo over Magic Legends. But it is disappointing to see that the game get this far. I know developers probably worked really hard to get this game where it's at, and to get it shut down in beta, it's sad to see, but it wasn't exactly an amazing step forward for the game in the beta.
It's hard. It sucks to see stuff like that, especially with an IP that you really like. But if it's not going to be a great game, then I guess why sink the money into it from a developer standpoint?
I think that's one thing where I would say that they didn't try to be greedy. They didn't try to push out a bad game and then have people buy into a bad game. It doesn't. I mean, it probably does happen, but not with games with such a name behind it. Because there's so much lore. There's so much history behind like Magic. There's a lot of story, a lot of planeswalkers and everything. And for the longest time, I always wanted a game, an RPG type game or something in the Magic universe. And I thought maybe this would have been it, but sadly it wasn't.
Wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears to maybe something that they might not have talked about. I wanted to talk a little bit about FFG games, as well as stuff from Asmodee, as well as Atomic Mass Studios. This week, they actually announced 2 new Legion models that are going to be coming out. Unfortunately, both of them are for the Republic. None of them are working for my Separatists. My droid clankers are not getting any love this time. But they've announced the Wookiees. These Wookiee models look fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and I can imagine my droids storming the beaches of Kashyyyk now, taking on these guys as much as possible.
I don't know if your droids are gonna fare any better against the good Wookiees.
The good news is that I get like 6 or 9 droids for their 3 Wookiees, so maybe I'll be able to out attrition them. But yeah, the Wookiees are very, very strong. One of the cool rules that they had one of the cool rules that they have is that they're actually very hard to break. They're not going to have them kind of break from fear or things of that nature. They actually get to regenerate, they get to recuperate, so they're going to be very, very hard to kind of clear off the table or to make them less useful.
Yeah.
The other one they got really, really makes my head shake, and it is, unfortunately, Yoda.
Yoda.
This guy is...
I mean, you can't have a Star Wars game without Yoda.
busted. He is fantastic. He's going to be able to make all of his clone troopers that much better. The guidance action that he can do, he can actually allow them... Any unit that's within range 1 or 2 gets a free non-attack action.
Ooh.
So you can have your clones move further up the field, getting into position. Then on the clone's turn, they can aim and fire and cause all kinds of mayhem
And
for you.
know, for any strategic game, action economy right there. The more actions you can take per turn, all the better. And it's a 200-point unit, so I mean, I'm guessing it's.
Oh yeah, he's not cheap.
It's not going to be cheap, but with those 200 points, he comes with a lot of power.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're playing D&D or you're playing Magic Action Economy, 100%. So he's going to help you with that quite a bit. Not to mention he's got a 4-red lightsaber. You know, who doesn't need a 4-red lightsaber? All right, the other thing that came out from, this is FFG proper actually, is Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror LCG has been around for years now.
Yes.
They had an original model where you'd buy a base set, and then once a month you would get a chapter of a story. The base set would typically give you your characters, they would give you some of your good starting cards, and then the month-by-month chapter would then give you a little bit more of the story and give you 1 or 2 cards that would really work well with your characters. Problem with that model was that FFG is notorious for not getting things out on time.
No.
Whether it's logistics problems or production problems, who knows? But 1 month turns into 3 months really quick.
Yes.
So if you're in the middle of a 6-chapter campaign and you get to episode 4,
You've been on a hiatus for a long time.
You have to wait. You know, imagine being in an RPG and your DM says, "Oh, I'll get to you in 3 months." It doesn't work that way. So what they've actually done is they've decided to start reprinting a lot of their old content and repackage it. So this is going to be the brand new starter deck for the Arkham Horror Living card game. They're calling it Arkham Horror the card game this time.
Okay.
Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to eliminate the month-by-month packs, and they're going to give you wholesale chapters maybe once or twice a year.
Okay.
So now everything you need to play this entire
It's all there inside the
experience is
box.
in the box.
I think that's a great idea. That this way you get new people that come into the game and they have pretty much almost near complete experience there.
You get everything in one shot. You don't have to rely on going back to the well over and over again. You don't have to rely on them having one pack out. One of the things that has been a problem for this game is that I forget exactly what cycle it is, but like deck number 4 has a really strong card for the characters. So it's sold out everywhere.
Okay.
So you can buy 1 through 3,
Yeah.
and you can buy 5 and 6, but you can't have chapter 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
I think I've seen that happen with like other LCG games, like Game of Thrones even, and some like even Five Rings, where there's always a busted card that's a chase card, and that little expansion just disappears.
Yep, that one little clamshell flies off the shelves and the rest of them sit there.
Yep.
Speaking of Legend of the Five Rings, they actually announced that Legend of the Five Rings is no longer, that they're going to stop producing it, and that's going to mark the end of all of their competitive LCGs.
Yeah, that's sad to see. I dabbled into Legend of Five Rings a little bit. There were just too many games for me to keep up with, but so like I bought it. I loved the story. The artwork on the cards are great. The gameplay was fun, but it is still sad to see that there are shuttering competitive LCGs.
Yeah, I think the LCG market really caters to the co-op. I think it's much better. So Marvel Champions is going great for them. We sell it here at the store, and that's a really good one as well, but that's also co-op. The good news with that one is that you buy one pack and you have everything for that character.
Yep.
Yes, there are better cards out there in other packs with other characters, but if you really just want to start, $15 and you're out the door and you're working. It's kind of like playing Keyforge in that way, where you just very small investment, you're in, and if you get hooked, you can fall down the rabbit hole, or you can stay there with your very small expenditure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, last thing in the news that I wanted to bring up, something that Dan and Sal probably wouldn't normally bring up, is I wanted to talk about Flesh and Blood.
Yes.
Anybody that's on the Discord that follows my Big Papa Palp announcements, I'm talking about Flesh and Blood now for probably only like 2 weeks. It feels like it's been months.
Yeah.
But I've been talking about it quite a lot. I think it's a great game. It's a new collectible card game. I say new because it just came out in 2019. It literally came out 5 months before the pandemic started.
Yes, it's new for card game.
New for
time.
card game.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I am very, very skeptical of new card games. Going up against the juggernauts of Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh is very, very tough. But I have faith in this one. This one actually has some legs, I think. Wei and I have played a couple games now.
Yes, we have.
A couple against each other, and then a couple against other people in the store. I think it's fantastic.
I think
It's
so
great.
too. It's the games that we have played so far have come down to the wire, and not a single moment did I ever feel like I couldn't do anything with my character. Like even when I was down to 1 health, I felt like there's an out, and the back and forth with attack and defending, and the decision you have to make on what cards you want to give up and what cards you want to keep. I could totally visualize the brutality of a fight between two people.
Yeah, for anybody that hasn't heard of it or hasn't looked into it, what you basically are is you are taking the persona of one of the fighters. Think of it almost like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat game that you'd play on a video game. You are taking the persona of one of these characters. You are fully equipped. You have a headpiece, you have armor, you have gloves, you have a chest piece, you have legs. And when you start the game turn 1, you are your absolute strongest.
Yeah.
Which is like a complete 180 degrees from Magic, where you're building up from nothing
You have to build up
something.
from nothing to something. Yep.
This game, you're starting first turn, first 4 cards you have in your hand, you are hitting at your maximum level most likely. And basically it's a back and forth where you're swinging punches, doing kicks, there's ninjas, there's big guardians, there's warriors, there's brutal savages, and they're just kind of knocking each other back and forth. And as the game goes, you're slowly getting a little weaker, you're breaking some of your armor, and eventually you get down to the end game. Last game Wei and I played, we were tied 1 hit point
One
each.
hit point each.
For what, 5-6 turns?
5-6 turns. You were playing the archer, and I was playing another ninja. Right now, my favorite archetype in Flesh and Blood. And he just kept firing arrow after arrow. I had to evade, which cost me cards. And then when I would come back at him, he had to wager whether or not what cards he wanted to keep or not. And we went 5-6 rounds of us being at 1 health each until something had to give.
Yeah,
And
something finally gave.
Yeah.
But we bring this up only because we're going to be starting to run armory events here in the store very, very soon as we get some of the stock from FAB. I also wanted to mention in the news, they actually talked about how they have now taken over the mantle as kind of the pro scene.
Yes.
Because Magic the Gathering has sort of backed away from some of their pro play. Flesh and Blood is now trying to fill that void. What they're having calling events. Now the pandemic seems to be kind of going in the right direction. They've announced these 4 calling events that are basically you sign up, you go, you play, and you can potentially advance into the national scene. So there's one in Vegas, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Cincinnati. Those are what they're calling the callings. Those are going to be events where you can then qualify to go to the national event, which is going to end up in Orlando, and I'm pretty sure it'll culminate with a worldwide championship in New Zealand, because New Zealand's actually the home where this game kind of comes from.
That'd be pretty cool.
This came out in New Zealand first, and it's kind of slowly migrating its way into the States.
Maybe I should attend some of these calling events and win an excuse to go to New Zealand.
If you get to go to one of these calling events, I think the top 8 for people that have played this before, you get a gold cold foil Fendel Spring Tunic.
Oh.
It's like a $30,000 card on eBay.
Oh my
It's
God.
ridiculous. So, and on top of giving away cool swag, they're also giving, I believe it's $10,000 in total prize support for each of the callings, and I believe it's $50,000 for the national event. So it's interesting to see this up and coming TCG. I'll be watching it with great interest to see how well it succeeds against the Pokemon.
Yeah, it's gonna be telling to see what the turnout is gonna be. You get a lot of people that come in and compete, and I think that's gonna be very good for the health of the game. So I'm also looking forward to seeing how this all shakes out.
And let's be honest, I love Magic. I'll always play Magic and buy Magic, but at the same time, it's nice that they're going to have some competition.
Yes.
That if they have competition, then that means that they're going to have to up their game and really dive into some of either the IPs they have or to dive into cleaning up when it comes to their R&D side.
I'd be curious to see what Wizard of the Coast does, if they do anything, because I know recently they're talking about shutting down their MPL, Magic Pro League, and in addition to that, they've recently also cut the prize pool. Used to always be $1 million.
Now it's a quarter of that, right?
Now it's a quarter of that, $250,000. There's a lot of people were upset about it, and it seems like Magic wants to step away from seems like they're trying to step away from the competitive scene, or they're trying to revamp it at least. And they're also making it not likely that anyone could sustain playing Magic professionally as a career choice.
I guess their business model is basically saying like how much revenue are they getting from offering such a gigantic pro scene?
Yeah.
Is it worth the outlay of money to have those pros? Like, is the fact that you can play Magic professionally actually a draw to get new players in, or is the tabletop kitchen stuff what they're going for? And perhaps they're right.
Yeah, they could be.
All right, I think that pretty much wraps up the news segment for today. So what we're going to do is kind of like what Dan and Sal did on the very first episode. They kind of gave their introduction into the gaming scene. So Wei and I are going to do that a little similarly. We're going to try to make it a little shorter than they did. We're also going to bring down some of the members of the community to see how they kind of got into the scene. So we have a list of questions that we've been asking everybody. Figure we will ask each other those questions, and we can kind of bounce off each other with the answers to those.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the things about RSG is the community. The community is by far one of the best things about the store that we have here, and it's not just about buying stuff, that it's about making new friends, it's about playing. And the Discord is great, but a lot of times you don't get to see the person behind the face, so that's why we've been trying to integrate some of the community members, talk to them, ask them questions, and we wanted you to get to know us a little bit better about how we got into the gaming scene as well. What was your introduction into gaming culture?
So what got me into gaming, trying to think back, all the way back in my childhood, was probably Legend of Zelda. The good old SNES, not SNES, NES Zelda. I remember the cartridges. I still remember when the cartridges didn't work, you blow on it. I think that's probably how I have really good lung capacity now. But it was Zelda, and then I skipped a whole console generation and went straight to Sonic and Sega. And then from there on, I was always a Sonic guy. I remember playing Sonic, Vector Man, Earthworm Jim, Mortal Kombat. I never really got into Mario or Zelda. I mean, only until much later in the scene. But I think that's my first step into video games. And then shortly after that, I realized like this whole playing with toys and stuff just wasn't enough anymore. I needed my fix of video games more and more. So I would bug my parents to buy me every new game, every new console afterwards. And then now, it's like I have in my household now, there's basically 2 of every console between me and my brother. We just won't share, but we have 2 Xboxes, 2 PlayStations, 2 Switches.
You didn't get that lesson in kindergarten about sharing?
No. If I wanted it, I wanted it.
That's fair. Well, now, I mean, I think we talked about this before with the Switch and the Mario home circuit. I really want that. I really want to race with my wife at the home, but you need 2 Switches to do that, to race to have each of you individually having one. So
I thought that was I think when they announced the carts themselves, I immediately thought, all right, how can I modify it so it runs faster? I've seen it in action. It moves pretty quick, and it's really fun. Integration of AR and a game console and an external experience of racing a cart around. I definitely want to have some sort of like Mario circuit here in RSG.
So here we go, Dan. When you get the new store, make sure that the floor plan is adequate enough that we can bring Mario and Luigi home circuit into the store and run it around on the floor. That's a must. When it comes to my introduction to gaming, I think it's pretty similar to yours. It was the Nintendo. It was the original Nintendo. I remember we didn't own one. This was in the era when they would actually let you rent consoles. Did you ever have this situation with this?
I don't think I ever didn't know that you could rent consoles.
So my parents didn't want to just outright buy me one. But what happened was, as something happened and somebody had gotten ill and they were going to be home for about a week from their jobs, and they were like, let's rent a Nintendo from, I guess it was a Blockbuster or a, now I'm really dating myself, from a Blockbuster or one of those rental agencies. We bought it home. We brought it home, and even though it was I believe it was my mom was supposed to be the one playing because she was the one that was sick, she never got to touch the controller. I was playing Mario from beginning to end. There wasn't a situation where she was getting her hands on that, and that was pretty much where it started. And like you, I've had pretty much every console since then. I did tend a little bit closer to Nintendo. Although I really appreciated the Genesis when it came to sports games.
Oh, yes.
I think when it came to like your Maddens, your NHLs, your baseball games, the Genesis was a little bit better for sports. The Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, they were a little better for your adventure games, I thought. Although I did really love Sonic too. And then I've kind of progressed all the way through, but I have noticed that lately I actually game less, and it's because of the next question on our list. It's about this tabletop games.
Tabletop scene, yes. I think tabletop has definitely taken a big step forward and has replaced video gaming for a lot of people, especially when pandemic. We've seen the tabletop gaming scene have a resurgence during the whole COVID period. So for you, like, what was your first step into the tabletop scene?
So I remember I'm an only child. That might be too much information for everybody, but I'm an only child, and I remember that that's important later. I remember the very first box of Magic I bought was 7th edition core. It had the gigantic Sarah Angel on the cover. I remember it was such a unique thrill because I had bought packs here and there, and I liked the idea of collecting and it being a game. But the fact that was the very first one that I was able to buy 36 booster packs and crack open in one sitting, and it really made an impression on me. And I think because I was an only child, I really gravitated to card games because I could collect them when I couldn't play them.
Oh, okay.
Because playing them wasn't something that was just readily available to me all the time.
Especially at such a young age.
Correct. And I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of tend to what I do now, where I collect a lot of stuff. I do love to play it. I love to play Flesh and Blood. I love to play Magic. I have commander decks and things of that nature. But at the same time, that's not the only game for me. The game has got to catch 'em all aspect of it. I need to have all the showcases. I need to have all 6 of those module lands. I need to have the full art and the regular art for the Xanathar. So that's kind of where I came from. Magic was by far the first, and then I'm actually late to the game when it comes to D&D. So I can't even say that I'm on the same page with a lot of people with that. But I do love that quite a bit. What about you? What was your first tabletop experience?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Gotta Catch 'Em All. I think from memory, my first tabletop game was that Pokemon Master Trainer game. Where you had to go, you're going around competing against other players to collect as many Pokemon, and then go through and fight the final. Oh man, this is probably pretty bad that I don't remember the components of the game, but there was a couple of battles at the end you had to win against. There was a final trainer you had to beat, and along the way you collect the Pokemon, and I think that was my first step into tabletop gaming, and I think that was also my first step into realizing dice rolls are important. Touching upon Dan's
You got to get that positive
dice rolling effect. Yeah. Back then, I was couldn't enroll into his class, but I remember specifically not liking a die roll. I'm like, no, it's this number. It's just straight up playing against my brother, and we'll come our own little home rules. But same with you. I didn't get into D&D until more recently, so I don't have the D&D background. But definitely the Pokemon game. Then I got into Magic from there. Back in, I think, with the Onslaught set in around 2002. I got gifted some Pokemon deck. Magic decks. Corrected there. Magic decks, and that's how I got my first step into Magic. And then I didn't really get back into board games. More, I think, until maybe like 5. More recently, like Agricola. It was like a Euro resource management and worker placement game. That's my step back into board games outside of Magic.
I can kind of fill in. I can kind of have the same iteration. So I was playing Magic in the late 90s, early 2000s for the most part. Went away to school. Life changes happened, of course, and I kind of fell out with tabletop until I found the resurgence of tabletop games in like the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006. With I think Ticket to Ride was like the first.
One of the gateway games.
One of those gateway games where you put it down. It's like, oh, you can play a board game and it's not Monopoly, and it can actually be really good and strategic.
Where it's not stress-inducing and table flipping.
It's not just I'm going to roll a die and whoever rolls better is the winner. It's actually like there's some strategery to it.
Yeah.
And it was easy enough that I could get other people that weren't necessarily gamers or weren't into Magic, I could get them to play something
Yep.
that was actively like activating my mind and those logical centers that I like to use. So that's same kind of roundabout. And I've been dipping in and out of tabletop games to card games back and forth, and now I'm just playing everything.
Yeah, now same thing. We're just dumping money into RSG right now.
So that brings us to the third question, which we might not have an answer for. What game have you always wanted to play but haven't?
Ooh, what game have I always wanted to play that I haven't? That's tough because I try to dabble into every little game, even if I try it just once. I can't really think of a game that I haven't had an opportunity to play yet. But there is a game that I want to play more of, which is Twilight Imperium. They had to release a 4th edition, and I love space epic 4X kind of board games. That's just my kind of thing, and I'm a sucker for the sci-fi scene. So I think I would love to play more of the Twilight Imperium. But I can't right now off the top of my head. I can't think of a game that I haven't touched upon already.
Well, you can count one more player in for your Twilight Imperium game. That would be on the list of games that I haven't played that I would actually love to play. And just to throw a shout out to a few of the other people that we play Flesh and Blood with, I would love to actually try Digimon, because I haven't tried the Digimon card game yet, and that's also kind of picking up a little bit of steam. There's been some product issues like getting stock and things of that nature. But very much like you, if a game comes out, most likely I've tried it. And if I haven't tried it, I've definitely read about it enough that I feel like I've played it. But yeah, so I would say Digimon was the answer I had in my head, but you say TI4, and I'm right there with you. I would love to play that.
So we mentioned before briefly that we're both pretty new to the D&D scene. I have played D&D mostly online, and so I'm just curious to see from your experiences from D&D, what's always been your go-to class?
So the very first character I rolled up with Dan as the DM was a ranger, and I absolutely love it. I've played other things in other campaigns, or I've rolled up adventurers for other things, just messing around with the player's handbook, and I always come back to the ranger as my favorite. I've always liked the idea of kind of like doing massive damage from some place that's safe. I don't know what that says about me in a character standpoint, but at the same time, that's always been my favorite thing, just kind of like knocking the bow and letting it fly. And even when we picked up Flesh and Blood and we started playing, it's like
you gravitated to that ranger right away.
There's a ranger. I don't know if she's good. I don't know if she's bad. I don't care. That's the character I'm going to play. That's another thing that's good about Flesh and Blood, is that you kind of like see yourself in the character that you choose. But yeah, definitely the ranger for me. What about you? What do you play?
So the sessions several campaigns I've played so far, I think predominantly I have enjoyed Paladin, with monks being close second. So there's something about being the one that's there to defend the rest of your team with your auras. I think right now the character that I have right now has I'm at level 10 right now, so I got a suite of auras right now that just requires everyone to be near me, and then whenever they are, someone needs a buff to something, I'll run right over there, cast Shield of Faith, or I think I picked up a feat where I can give, if an enemy were to attack one of my party members, give them a disadvantage to their attack. So I think I've always gravitated to a paladin, and I think that's more in line to my personality. That I like to help a friend out, defend. If someone needs help, I'm always gonna try to be there to help them out. So that's how I got pulled into the whole paladin.
That sounds fantastic. You sit up in the front and get hit by the goblin. I'll be behind you shooting arrows over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Our next question is going to be very easy for you, I'd imagine. What is your magic color identity? If you had to pick one color or one combination of colors, where do you find yourself?
Oh boy,
enjoying your living.
Okay, so I play a lot of Magic. I have a ton of commander decks. Now you would think that I would have an easy choice in color identity, but it's actually a lot harder because every color identity has something about it that I really enjoy mechanics from. So if you look at like my commander decks, I have pretty much almost a combination of almost every color combination in decks. But if I had to pick one, and I'm pretty sure Dan won't enjoy this. It'll probably be blue.
Oh no, I don't enjoy it either.
Something about so you want to play Magic? Oh, how about no? Counter spells, being able to draw I've always gravitated to being able to draw all your answers that you need, and then being able to have an answer for whatever your opponent is playing. And not to mention, there's I'm also favor creatures that fly. So blue tends to have flying creatures that I quite enjoy, like Sphinx. Even though Sphinx are an archetype that doesn't get enough support, but Sphinx are like an archetype that I secretly enjoy, and alongside Merfolks. Merfolks are also another tribe that I really enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always when I first started playing Magic, it was definitely red. I just liked the idea of just rush. It was pretty much exactly the opposite of you. So, you want to play Magic? I want to end this quickly.
Yeah.
So that was what I gravitated to first. But then as I started to really learn the game and understand the nuance, I also picked up Black Magic. So I would have to say Rakdos for me. Red Black is the nice mix. You get a little bit of speed, a little bit of burn, but you also get that kind of
a lot of removal.
That removal from Black that makes it in a rules way better to play, I guess.
I think that's going to be something we're going to have to talk on the Discord. That we'll put up a poll. What's your color identity? We'll see who's.
Well, that brings us up to our last question, which I think we should actually make a poll on the Discord, because I think it would be. It's probably going to be more one-sided than I'd like, but I'd like to get everybody's perspective. Last question, very simple: Star Wars or Star Trek? Which one is? Which one wins the battle for you?
So it has been. If I had growing up, I've always been a Star Trek guy. All the way from, and now I did not watch too much Star Trek with Kirk, but a lot of my Star Trek experience has been with Picard, and then Janeway with Voyager. I remember fondly sitting down and me and my brother would argue a whole lot throughout the day. We're brothers, so we fight and argue all the time. But Star Trek comes on, we sit down together and watch, and sometimes my mom will join in. Back in the day and watch alongside us, even though she may not understand exactly what's going on. But I always had fond memories of with Star Trek. So yeah.
I was definitely Star Wars, space fantasy. Nothing better than a fantasy, and then you put it in space and you make it even further. But I have to admit, I have been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, and I do now appreciate it a lot more than I did when I was a kid. And I have to admit that the Next Generation is by far and away the best one that I've been privy to so far.
Yeah.
All right, well, I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into the two of us that you're probably going to see around the store quite a bit these days. We've done a few community interviews, and you're going to see some of the other community members that are here. We hope to do episodes like this in the future, so if you see this and you want to participate in one of the next ones, please feel free to reach out to either one of us or also Phil. Definitely reach out to Phil.
Yeah,
and we can definitely kind of make that happen for a future episode. Maybe when Dan and Sal decide to go on a trip to Tahiti or wherever they're going to go to next.
And then we'll fill in for them again.
Of course. So please enjoy these brief interviews we did with these other members about the questions that Wei and I had just answered ourselves.
All right. Thank you.
All right. First things first, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are in the Discord.
Hello there. My name is Mike. I go by the Nerd Cop on the Discord.
All right, Mike, it's nice to meet you. First question on our list. What was your intro to gaming?
So, I was a Nintendo boy, right? I grew up with the Nintendo Duck Hunt pistol in my hand and playing that Super Mario 1 with the Duck Hunt cartridge. I definitely remember that. And it evolved over the years. I had like a Sega Genesis. I had PlayStation, and I remember the big thing for me that got me into role-playing games in general was Final Fantasy VII, specifically for me. It was just such a massive game, the graphics, the music. I still fall asleep to the music, honestly. If I have trouble sleeping, I'll pop on Aerith's theme or even a battle theme. It still puts me to sleep. It doesn't matter. But I started with that stuff, got into online gaming, started with the Xbox, had Xbox Live, I remember. And then I started playing online games like Final Fantasy 11, obviously the Final Fantasy kickback, and then Dungeons and Dragons Online, which was still a phenomenal game if you ever get around to playing it. The graphics aren't great now anymore, and the mechanics are a bit old, but it still has traps. It's super cool. But anyway, that got me into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Funny enough, to go a little bit on a tangent here, I used the forums of the game. They had forums to find a local game, and my good friend Rob, who I've been friends with for a while, that's how I met him. I met him through these forums. I went to Pizza Hut at 16 years of age to just meet a random guy from the internet. Don't recommend that, but it worked out. It worked out in my eyes, and he became my lifetime GM pretty much. He's been the game master for games forever, and I got into Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, 3.5, Pathfinder, skipped 4th, and I'm playing a little bit of 5th now. And then that got me into tabletop and stuff later on. But it was mostly gaming, then tabletop, role-playing games.
Question number 2, kind of piggyback off of that. What is the tabletop game that got you into the scene?
So I started just last year with Warhammer. I needed something to do. And when you're young and you're working on a fast food income, a several $100 army isn't going to cut it, right? So, I always was interested in it. Never really remembered the game until recently again. Then I was like, oh yeah, I have disposable income, right? So why not try it out? I was always jealous of artistic people because I'm not very artistic, and I was like, well, maybe I could paint like miniatures. And it turns out I'm okay at it, right? So I've really been enjoying that aspect of it, and I've played a couple rounds. So far, I don't know if I've completed a match yet where I've gotten all the rules correct, but I'm trying, right? I'm learning.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. What game have you always wanted to play but haven't yet?
Oh, man. I think that's going to go to tabletop role-playing games. So I've been super interested in like Call of Cthulhu, and just a litany of like World of Darkness games and stuff like that. But I never actually got out of my comfort zone, which is like Dungeons and Dragons Pathfinder. So
okay, very good. So this question maybe works, maybe doesn't. What is your go-to RPG class? And if you haven't yet played one, what do you think would be your go-to RPG class?
Yeah, that's super good, easy for me. It's Bard. I'm a Bard no matter what. Just versatility. Jack of all trades. I like to get in there, do anything, and have a the right tool for the job kind of thing.
When you play the Bard, a side note, when you play the Bard, do you bring an instrument to the table, or do you sing as you're playing? Or
well, funny enough, usually no. But my wife did get me to LARP one time, and I brought a pan flute. I have absolutely no idea how to play it, but I was just rocking the pan flute, and people went wild. They loved it.
Fantastic. I love that. Next one. Have you ever played Magic?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect. So what is your Magic's color identity? And you can combine if you want to do combo colors.
Yeah. That's great. So I think I'm mostly red and white or red, green, blue. I honestly, I play it all, right? But it's mostly, it's going to be base red and then sprinkle in the other colors.
Very good. And last and final question. This is the most important one of them all. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, it's definitely Star Wars for me. Never got into Star Trek. It's a shame. I know a lot of my friends love it. But, space wizards, right?
Fantasy and space, right?
Yeah,
Best thing ever.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. We're here with our next community member. If you want to give us your name and maybe your name on the Discord as well.
My name's Nick, also Nicholas on the Discord. Same thing. It's pretty easy to see or find.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Nick.
Nice to meet you too.
First question, what was your intro to gaming? Could be anything, video games, board games, something you did when you were a kid.
I started a lot with Pokemon growing up, and then it segued from there. Just too much Nintendo.
Oh, so Pokemon, the video game, is where you started?
Yeah.
What color was the first one you started with?
Color? Oh, I had Fire Red as a kid.
Perfect.
and then I lost it.
I'm sure that'd be worth some money now. I bet.
No, I bet, but yeah, it's gone.
All right, question number 2. Transitioning from that one, what game got you into the tabletop scene?
Actually, Magic. Started like 10 years ago. My younger cousin is like 2 years younger than me. He went to a summer camp in near Medford, New Jersey, YMCA summer camp, and he came back from that summer with Magic cards and showed it to me, and it's been derailed from there.
Derailed in a good way.
In a good way. It's just it's an addiction, but it's a fun addiction. Exactly. And to this day, even after around 10 plus, you still learn new stuff. So that's the best part about it.
All right, next question on our list is, what game have you always wanted to play but have never had the opportunity to play?
Recent game, because of last week, I was coming back up from South Jersey, and I was like, all right, I'll show up to the store. Why not? Because it's on the way back up north. And I saw and everyone was playing X-Wing. It was like 4 p.m. Everyone was playing X-Wing. I'm like, I have no idea how to play this. And I had my Magic cards, and like no one was there to play Magic. And so I was very close to playing, but then realized that it was getting late, and I had work the day after. So
yeah, X-Wing's a beautiful game to see on it because it's all pre-painted and everything.
Yeah.
It's a great introductory game. If you ever get a chance, I suggest you give it a try.
And they're all setting up upstairs as well, so maybe after this.
Tonight is the night.
They said something about, like, you can just buy a little ship and, like, apparently, like, 10 or so players play all together or something.
Yep, there's a game called Aces High where you play one single ship, and then everybody else is fighting with each other, and it's a free-for-all kind of game. It's actually one of the best ways to learn.
Oh, yeah?
Death March, Sal, he pretty much sets that up and moderates it every Wednesday, so if you get a chance, you should definitely jump into a game of that.
Definitely.
All right, next question. What is your go-to RPG class?
I play too much D&D. I already have a session once a week, and it lasts too long. Well, not too long. It's fun. It's great. I mean, D&D is amazing. I'm working on starting my own session soon.
Excellent.
I drew my own maps for it already. World building right now. I'm listening to music at work and just brainstorming the entire time, mindlessly thinking about this world building for the game. I saw something recently off of a podcast I was listening to, where they're doing something where prior to the game starting, they're drawing these cards to build the world itself, where you draw on the map to design it. Something called like the Quiet Year or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's really, really cool.
I'd like to see those maps because you're quite the artist. There's a couple of a squid infestation has happened upstairs. I see with some sketch work around the room.
I did the squids, yes.
You are the one to thank for the squids.
I did the squids. That was literally last week, so I'm to blame for that. Dan, I'm sorry.
and you did the cards, right? You printed the cards. Oh, okay. We'll cut that part out.
He's gonna see it. I mean, he'll see them by the time this comes out, I guess. They're hidden away for him to find.
When you play D&D, what is the go-to class that you play? Like, what is your character's class?
Bard Degeneracy.
Oh, look at this. We got another bard here. That's good.
Lore Bard.
Do you when you play the bard, do you strum a little ukulele? Do you sing a little bit, or
no? But I try to sing, and it's not fun.
Okay, well, it's fun for everybody. With
it's fun for everyone else because they're like, you got to sing if you're a bard. If you're a bard, you got to sing, and I choke up, and that's the best part.
That's the reason I've never played a bard because I can't sing. Next question: what is your Magic color identity?
I'm like a black green kind of Golgari Orzhov player, but now I'm starting to realize that I'm playing a lot of blue. So I'm turning into a Sultai player.
Ah, okay. Very good. All right, last question. Maybe the most important question on the list. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
That was quick.
Yeah.
All about that space fantasy?
Never watched Star Trek.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Nick. We really appreciate your time.
Alrighty, have a good one.
So we have here is...
my name's Aiden, also known as Sad Duck Man on the Discord.
Okay. So we wanted to reach out to community members, people that come into the RSG, get to know some of the community better. So what I wanted to ask you a couple of questions here, just to get to know you better, and so the community other people in the community get to know some of the fellow gamers out there. So what got you into gaming?
God. Probably I had to be around like 5 or so when parents got me like a Game Boy Advance, like the very first like flip up blue one, and it just sort of sprouted from there to a Wii, and then an Xbox 360, and then somehow regressed to a PS2, and then PS4, and now a computer. Really trying to pinpoint the origin of like when I started is kind of difficult because of just memory in general is just bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing since I was like, had to be 5, 6, and just it's sort of escalated very rapidly and very poorly from there.
Well, so with in the gaming realm, tabletop games.
Yeah.
What was your first tabletop game?
Probably Monopoly or something like that. It's gone. Of course, it's gone to now Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer 40K.
You graduated to bigger games.
Yes, I'm at the big boys table now.
Yeah.
With spending all my money on 40K. But yeah, it probably had to be like Monopoly or Sorry or one of like the classic children's tabletop, or even Chutes and Ladders or Candyland it's probably Candyland if I can think about it hard enough. It's
Wow,
probably
Candyland.
Candyland, yeah. That's
Okay. So, what you had mentioned that you obviously played D&D. So, what's your go-to RPG class then?
For some odd reason, I tend to gravitate towards DPS and tank sort of positions, like Paladin or a heavy support character. For some odd reason, I always do. I don't know why. It's not like I'm good at it. It's like I like it. Armor, big, bulky, smash things. Smash, stab, heal occasionally, and then immediately die because I don't spec right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could just blame your cleric or healers for not healing you correctly, right?
Guys stink.
So, what are there any games that are out there tabletop scene or video games for that matter that you've always wanted to play but never got a chance to play?
Video game wise, it probably has to be Demon Souls.
No.
Especially the Demon Souls remake, because A, I'm not paying for a PS5, and B, I don't have an old PlayStation 1 that I can play Demon Souls on.
You couldn't play on PS5 even if you could right now.
I mean, if I could even find one
Yeah.
and or pay for it,
Yeah.
that's not happening. And tabletop wise, it would probably have to be Age of Sigmar. Though I've told myself I would do it, but if I wasn't buying other 40K
If you
armies,
weren't already in
if
40K.
I was already in 40K, I mean, I'll totally play if someone wants to be like, hey, I got a 40K Sigmar army you want to try out. I'll totally do that, but
Well, there's
Not
that
getting it.
Dominion
There's
set
the
that's
Dominion,
coming around, right?
yeah.
So all you have to do is find someone to split the
it
box with
yeah.
you.
Thanks for saying no to that, by the way.
No, I'm gonna want to play Age of Sigmar, so I'm gonna keep the box
yeah.
all to myself.
Yeah, hoard it. It's mine. No one touches it.
So I know that we've played Magic against one another before.
Yes.
So what's your Magic color identity?
Red, blue. Now, it's probably either green or white, or green white, or mono white, or mono green. It's one of the two colors, or just red. I don't know. It's either it's a mix of those three. I don't really stick to one whole. I mean, before starting to play Commander when I started coming to the store, I hadn't touched Magic in like 4 years, and that was basic 60 card Magic.
Yeah, standard or modern decks.
Standard, yeah, playing whatever. I had like a red-blue deck. I had a black-white deck, green, a 3-colored even. That was poor. And a 60 card, that's even worse.
So you kind of dabbled in a little bit of every color there.
Like green, white, red, I would say.
Okay, all right. So there's now I have one very, very hot button question here, and
Yes.
I hope you're ready to answer this.
Yeah.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. By a long shot.
Without question, Star Wars.
Yeah, without question, Star Wars. Because I am a big Old Republic fan. I played the MMORPG online. I wanted to play the Knights of the Old Republic games. I'm just like, I'm not getting around to that. I like the more online aspect. I grew up with Star Wars, watched the original trilogy, then watched the prequels, which was bad. I've never really had much exposure to Star Trek. I know my parents were watching. I forget which one it was. The Star Treks, they were binge watching it along with the other shows they were watching. So I did get to see it. Star Trek is a cool setting. It's very interesting, but I'm like, I just like Star Wars because it's nice and simple, and I already know all the characters in a bunch of the story. So it's like, I don't want to go into Star Trek because that's a whole TV shows and then the movies, which I heard were not that good.
Well, not all the movies, but one of these days I'll bring in the DVD box set, and I'll lend you all of Next Generation. And
I think they watched Next Generation. I think that's probably what it was with. God, I'm blanking on names. I'm not good with that.
What, Picard?
No, not Picard. With the other two. God. The one with the doctor where he could roam around the ship.
Oh, that's the Voyager.
Yeah, Voyager. Yeah. They were watching Voyager, which from what I've seen, it was really good. I liked it. It seemed interesting, but I just never got like as hooked as I was on Star Wars with it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Aiden.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to get the community get to know a little bit more about yourself here, and well, glad to see you around some more, and then get some Aces High in or some Magic games in.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the D&D box coming out for Magic.
Oh,
I'm building a whole deck around that.
But you and everyone else is.
Yeah, me, everyone else, and if Dan doesn't hoard all of them.
All right.
They're totally not already at his house. They're not. I don't know that.
So we have here another member of the RSG community.
Yep. Hey, how's it going? Name's Nick.
And what's your Discord handle if you wanted to share that?
My Discord handle is Zeebs.
Zeebs.
My college nickname.
All right.
Yes.
So we wanted to get to know, or get the rest of the community get to know better members of the RSG that come into the store, that game, and that everyone sees. Now, I remember seeing you most often doing a DM, being a DM in your campaign.
Yeah. Been playing D&D for quite some time now. Actually, over 10 years, a decade. So it's kind of crazy to think about.
Wow. So what got you into gaming to start with?
Yeah. So great question, I must say. For D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, or even tabletop gaming in general, it all began, like I said, about 10 years ago, when my dad was telling me about how he and some of his buddies in high school in the 70s would play this game that was considered satanic, corrupt, what have you, but they had a blast. And that was, of course, Dungeons & Dragons. Now, being that the case, that's not to say that my dad was the nicest character. He was a great guy, great pal around, out of character, stuff like that, really good guy. But he played this one elf sorcerer who was, found himself a little haughty above and beyond everyone else, and he recounts about how the way that they ended their last session, and how even in his yearbook they would say, "Hey Don, nice playing with you, but it wasn't nice how you locked us all in a house and burned the house down." But hey, Dungeons & Dragons, it's that wonderful game where you could just essentially do whatever you want within certain means, and there's that kind of like a lore and magic to it that just brought me to it. I gravitated to it, and ever since then, I've been DMing, playing games with it and the like, and it's just been a blast.
All right. Sounds like it's a generational thing.
Oh, yes. Yes,
Yep.
Of course. I totally do not follow my father's footsteps. So,
Oh, especially if you're the DM, whoever that's playing your campaign should be a little worried about getting locked into a house.
yeah, of course, no. I don't tell them that story, but we'll get to it eventually.
So, in the tabletop scene, D&D aside, or what was your earliest memory of a tabletop game that got you into the tabletop scene?
So, for me getting into the tabletop scene, it was kind of like a self-made journey. My brother never really got into board games and stuff the like. He wasn't as much of a nerd as I was, and although my dad inspired me to some degree, he never played any games like Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, or stuff of the like. So for myself, it was through a network of friends, especially in middle school, which, being at a Catholic school, was a very fun experience, trying to hide the cards or other components when you're trying to play during lunch or something similar. But aside from that, the journey began when a few of my buddies started playing in a cafeteria in a Catholic school, and that's when I got my itch for Magic, and D&D as well. But beyond there, it's just the whole concept that you can create a world, or you can play in a world and immerse yourself and just go something above and beyond the ordinary humdrum of daily life. That just
So you have to do that sense of escape from reality.
Yeah.
Like go off into a fantasy world into a game that you're playing with
Yes.
especially with friends and everything.
exactly. So
So were there any games that you've always wanted to play but never had a chance to?
I've tapped into a lot of different games throughout the years, but I would say one that has always been something that I've wanted to try out would be. This is a good question, actually. I'm trying to think about that.
Yeah, one of the games that I've like is part of like Twilight Imperium was part of one of the heavier sci-fi games.
Yes.
So
Yep.
so any of the bigger games that, or maybe some sort of like lesser known games that might have been something.
Actually, there is this one obscure game that I've been dying to try. Have you ever heard of the tabletop game Dread, perchance?
Dread? No, I have not, unfortunately.
So Dread is an amazing role-playing game where the main concept is that the entire story, usually rolled in one-shots, and for all of you who don't know, one-shots are kind of just like you play a session and the story begins and ends there. But it centers around a Jenga board or a Jenga tower.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's horror. And the whole idea behind it is that you create characters, very simple, no dice rolling or stuff of the like. But if your character does anything that's outside of their character, or if they're in a stressful situation, you have to pull from the
You
tower.
pull from the tower. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
And as you pull, sometimes you have to pull multiple times, sometimes you have to pull under a time limit. And if the tower falls, you die.
Just
die.
you or the entire everyone in the campaign dies?
Just the player. The tower does get reconstructed, but it's up to the game master to say to pretty much jurisdict what the difficulty as it goes along. So you can place less towers back in the new tower or something the like. It's pretty flexible in that regard, but I never had the opportunity. I wanted to do it for like a Halloween special, but with that in regards, I just find it kind of just capitalizes on the whole suspense factor in a way that most other games would.
That sounds exciting. I think one of these board game nights, or if you have an opportunity, definitely, if you have the game, I think you might be able to find quite a few people that might be interested in something like that as well here at the RSG.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic.
So, you have, like you mentioned, you've DM'd quite a bit. Now, have you played as the other opposite side of that board?
Of course. In the few times where I wasn't designated as routine DM for a play group, which is perfectly fine, yes, I've definitely played a few times, whether it was 3.5, even 4th, and 5th edition itself, of course.
So what's your go-to class?
My go-to class is the wizard.
Okay.
For me, it's the whole concept of being a glass cannon and having to work with interactions with your other players to prove your worth. Because there's this magic beyond just the magic of the wizard that is, yes, you can manipulate the battlefield. Yes, you can do all these things. But if you're not in coherency with your team, it can all fall apart really quick. And you freaking magic, man. Like, it's just the whole idea of like, oh, just fireball or just like, you know, do something crazy. Turn this dude into a chicken. I remember one time where we were facing against this pit devil in a tower on this mountain. And our solution, because we didn't want to fight it, we couldn't fight it. We just transformed it into a hamster, put it into a bag of holding, and chucked it out the window. And that was it. I mean, you know, maybe years down the line it'd be a problem for us, but for right now, we're just, you know, squishy little characters. So.
It's a problem solved. As long as you get it solved, it doesn't matter how you get it done.
Exactly. So.
All right. So, if since I know that you've also played Magic as well. So, from your time of playing Magic, have you aligned yourself to a color? What's your color identity in Magic?
I would say, we're talking about just a single color here?
Oh, you go more than one color.
More than one color? All right.
Like I went with blue.
Gotcha.
But like I don't play as many blue decks. But like I think
Is that why you're wearing a blue shirt?
no, and then my blue just happens to be my favorite color though.
Oh, you're on the blue side?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, yeah, I would say, in terms of the colors in general, monocolored would be red.
Okay, so
I like
you got
the
another red
spontaneity.
player.
Yeah, spontaneity, the whole idea of it. If we're going for multiple colors, I'm looking at Grixis, blue, black, and red.
Oh, okay.
It's not really as much of, I mean, I do enjoy playing it, but it's more over the stuff that I don't really like playing, which is white, green, the whole idea of you have to generate a lot of stuff on the table, stuff like that. It goes in tandem with my like choice of being a wizard. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like you have
option choices. You can control things.
Yep.
Shape the battlefield to the way you want it to be.
Exactly. But you could also just be a shotgun wizard. Just blow everything up or just do something crazy and just put a whole wrench in the works. And for me, that's half the fun. Just
And
doing
it
something crazy.
just so happens a lot of wizards are in those 3 colors too in Magic.
There we go.
There we go.
Exactly.
All right. So the last question I have here, and it's a hot topic question that a lot of people tend to ask all over the place, and Star Wars or Star Trek?
I'm going to go with my dad over my brother here. Star Trek.
All right.
Yeah. As much as I love Star Wars with the action, Star Trek just feels a lot more profound to me. The dynamicism of the characters and stuff like that is a lot more in depth, and I've always enjoyed watching a television series over kind of like a movie or a trilogy per se. So, and just so much more content too.
Yeah, with Star Trek, I've always felt like there's a lot of there's some more morality they tie into it. I remember specifically an episode where they talked about whether or not if Data was a person, whether or not he was an object. And I think that entire episode, Star Trek, I felt like their episodes can teach you things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I used to watch all the time the original series with my dad, and I remember there was this one episode about the whole concept that there's this world, and it's in the future, of course, and whatnot. Like even this civilization is relatively advanced for its time, and they've gone over the whole prospect of war, although they still engage in it. But rather than it actually being fought with people, it's fought with algorithms and programs. And if a side were to lose, they still have to sacrifice those people. So it's more of a game of numbers and stuff of the like, rather than just true bloodshed. And it's very much a sociological concept. And I've always found myself enraptured by, obviously characters and the like themselves, but just how does a society or how does an environment shape the character? And you get a lot more of that from Star Trek than something like Star Wars per se.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting down and give us a little insight to one of the fellow members of the RSG community. So thank you for coming down here and letting us interview you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, so the next interview is going to be somebody that needs no introduction, but just for continuity, tell us who you are.
What's going on, guys? My name is Phil. I'm usually behind the camera. I am MSR Phil on the Discord. You might have known me, from being, the guy that recruits everybody to do these kinds of things. Yeah.
Main contact on the Discord, so if you ever have any questions, make sure you ask him. All right, Phil, you're getting the same questions everybody else did, so let's go through them.
All right.
What was your introduction to gaming as a whole? Doesn't have to be tabletop, can be any gaming.
My introduction to gaming in general started with the Nintendo. With Contra. I was probably 4 years old, and my cousin, who was 6 or 7 at the time, really into Contra, and we were like best buds back then, so we played the hell out of that game. We got to a point where we could beat the whole game without losing a life, without taking a bullet, nothing, in succession.
So what you're saying, you could beat that game without the up, down, down code?
I said I used to be able to beat that game without the up, down, down code. I've tried recently. It didn't go as good.
Oh, okay, well, it's good. It's good. It's nice to know that you were able to do it at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
All right, so how did that transition to the tabletop scene for you? What was your first tabletop experience?
So the way that it transitioned was I got into video gaming, and then I guess somewhere in middle school I got into Warcraft, the first one, the orcs and humans. And that got me into the RTS scene, which kind of led, because then as we were playing that game and Diablo 2, we started meeting up at the Wizards of the Coast store in the Woodbridge Mall back in the day. And that's where I picked up my first box of Orc Boys. And I was like, wait a second, these are in real life? And I'm like, oh man, I gotta have these, But they were expensive for the time. What was expensive? And they were like $29 at the time, which was expensive for the fantasy orcs. So I got my mother to buy them, I built and I painted them, and then for Christmas, she got me the 6th edition box set, the starter set for fantasy, and, I built and painted it in my basement, and couldn't find anybody to play with. So I ended up at the Game Room store, which is where I began to play on tabletop.
Very cool. And you still play orcs today, correct?
I do. In the new in AOS, I'm going to be playing the Oryx.
Staying true to form.
Yep.
All right, next question we have for you here is, assuming that you've never played every game in the store, What is a game that you've always wanted to try but haven't had the chance to yet?
Age of Sigmar and fantasy in general, because honestly, I didn't get to play a lot of fantasy because when I was at the game room, which was my first gaming store, everybody was into 40K, so that's what we ended up playing, and I never got a chance to play fantasy really, and I never played AOS at all. So with the new edition coming out, we're gonna be diving into that, which is gonna be exciting.
Available on Saturday at RSG. All right. So do you play tabletop games? Do you play RPGs?
I do.
All right. What is your go-to RPG class?
The barbarian, and it's because I love Grog, from Critical Role. I love Grog. I love playing the big dumb barbarian. For some reason, it's just a fun character to play because you get to be stupid, get to be funny all the time, and that's I guess that's kind of me.
Get to kind of shut your brain off for a little while, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What would I do if I wasn't thinking about it? Oh, that's right. I'd hit it with an axe.
What would I do if I had a giant axe in my hands? Oh yeah.
What about magic? You have the magic color identity?
I guess my color identity would be red or green, or probably red and green. I like big monsters, and I like the brute force of green. You just put down a big monster, and I'm going to hit you with it really, really hard.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but red green barbarian is a commander in the new MTG set. So,
I had no idea.
I think that's going to fit right up your alley there.
Great.
And last question, the most important question of the entire episode: Star Wars or Star Trek?
It has to be Star Wars because honestly, I've never seen an episode of Star Trek. I've never seen an episode. I've never watched the movie. I've never read anything about it. For some reason, not because I didn't want to, not because of any other means, just other than I've just never got around to do it. Star Wars has always been something in the forefront of the gaming community. Attack Wing was never something that really interested me, but X-Wing did, and I just stuck with it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for finally giving the chance for everybody to see the face behind.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be on the camera, Dan, who has the stick. He just keeps me behind the desk over there.
Just keeps poking you, telling you to start the camera.
I'm kind of worried he's going to see this.
Thank you very much for being here, Phil. Thanks for everything you do for the store on the social media side, by the way.
Yep. Thank you for for having me, I guess.
All right, everybody. We're here with one of our newest members of the RSG community. So if you wouldn't mind telling us who you are and who you are on Discord. Oh, you got to be kidding. Phil, are you serious? We're interviewing the squid now?
I thought it would be funny.
Oh, I thought this was a professional job here. What's going on here? All right, well, thank you very much for watching the Red Seal Roundup. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got it to the end and you didn't get annoyed by me or Wei as we've taken over for Dan or Sal. They will be back next week, so if you hated this episode, please tune in next week. You'll like the next one better.
But definitely hit the thumbs up on our video for sure.
For sure. I'm going to watch this video at least 10 times just to make the number go up. So if you could, give us a like. If you like the thing, you can subscribe, I guess. I don't know. And if you haven't already done so, please join our social medias. We have the Discord,
which if we just wanted to mention that we are very close to a milestone. We're about to hit 400 members. Right now we are at Phil, what were they? 394. So by the time you see this video, so it may already be at 400, but we are very close on a big milestone, and then with this fantastic growing community of ours.
Yeah, 400 members, growing community, and best community in gaming in New Jersey for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it. And by the way, the squid has invaded the YouTube channel as well now.
Yes.
Come on into RSG, get yourself an X-Wing squid.
Squids.
You can also get the Dominion set that just came in as well. That's in the store.
Oh, that's right.
And the day you watch this video, if you watch it on the first day, which you absolutely should, it is for sale at RSG. So come on down and get yourself some plastic.
Get your hands on one before they fly off the shelves.
Some lovely squid action. Have a great one, guys.
Okay, take care.